I pulled up to the venue 10 minutes early. I always arrive early, part habit, part survival. The building looked exactly like I remembered. Brick trimmed with white columns, moss draped like tired shawls over the trees lining the walk. Savannah hadn't changed, but I had. At least I liked to believe I had. My heels clicked louder than I wanted as I walked toward the entrance. Maybe because I hadn't worn them in a while. Maybe because silence always made things echo. The air was warm, sticky, the way it always was this time of year. Someone behind me laughed, loud and easy. I didn't turn around. I didn't come here to be seen. I came here because not showing up would be a story too. Either way, I'd lose. I'd always lose. They say when you're the youngest in a Southern family, you either disappear or you explode. I was always better at disappearing. Inside the doors, a folding table sat with name cards. A young woman in black tapped at her tablet as I approached. "Hi, I'm here for the engagement dinner," I said, offering a short smile. "Name?" she asked, without looking up. "Marcellus Giroux." She flipped a few cards, paused, then pulled one out and frowned. "Marcia G?" she asked, a little unsure. I held back the sigh. "That's close." "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. These get mixed up all the time, especially at family events. It's the font or something," she said with a quick, nervous laugh. "Sure," I said, taking the card. I slipped it into my purse without looking. It wasn't the first time my name was wrong. Probably wouldn't be the last. The hallway leading to the dining room smelled like lemon cleaner and nostalgia. The door was already propped open, light pouring out from chandeliers that looked too bright. I stepped in. No one noticed. At first, I told myself they were just busy, too busy greeting one another, catching up, swapping pleasantries over bourbon and buttered rolls. Then I realized they weren't too busy. They'd already looked, already seen, and turned away. Cousins, uncles, old family friends, I nodded at each one. Some nodded back, others smiled the way people smile at someone they're not sure they should remember. I spotted Thea instantly. She always had a way of being the center of any room without trying. Her dress was tailored, her laugh sharp and well-timed. Blaze stood next to her, one hand in his pocket, the other holding court. No one waved me over, no one moved to make room. A server noticed me lingering and asked, "Are you with the Jarrow party?" "Yes," I said. He scanned the seating chart, then glanced back at the tables, awkward. "Let me see what I can do." He eventually slid a chair between the coat rack and the path where servers passed through. It was barely within earshot of the toast I already knew would come later. I sat. Not because I wanted to, but because standing longer would have made me more visible. The napkin was starched, folded once over the plate. My fingers moved before I told them to, creasing the corners, folding it into something more familiar. A habit from childhood. When I was too anxious to talk, I folded things. Paper, towels, my own hands. Quiet shapes to hold the noise. I looked up, and that's when Blaze walked over. He had that kind of walk people mistake for confidence, but I'd learned better. It was possession. His charm came at the cost of someone else's silence. "Didn't recognize you without your usual jeans and boots," he said, flashing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I smiled back. "Didn't recognize you without your LinkedIn filter." He laughed like I'd told a joke. I hadn't. Then he turned and walked away before I could say anything else. I wasn't sure if it was better or worse that he didn't even wait for my reply. Back at the table, nothing had changed. No place card, no shift to make room. Thea caught my eye, gave a tight shrug, and said, "Just find anywhere. It's casual." Casual. That word again. A family favorite. A shield for indifference. A way to make you feel wrong for wanting structure, belonging, acknowledgement. I sat near the service station. A tray brushed my shoulder as a server passed. My dress caught on its edge, pulling slightly at the seam. No one noticed. The roast duck made its way around the room. Not to me. I folded the napkin once more. This time, it was deliberate. A leaf shape. Sharp but contained. I wasn't here to belong. I was here to remember. And I did. Every silence, every almost, every smile that stopped just short of reaching me. I looked across the table. This would be the last time I came uninvited to a table I helped build. Dinner had started without me. Everyone already had their plates, their drinks, their laughter. Conversations spilled across the table like wine no one cared to clean. Thea's laugh rose above the others, loud, polished, placed perfectly between her sips. Blaze stood beside her, hands moving as he told some half-clever story. The people around him nodded like bobbleheads. No one looked my way. A server finally came by and set down a glass at my spot, only half full. No name card, no proper setting, just a glass and a plate I hadn't touched. I sat still, keeping my hands in my lap. It wasn't just that I hadn't started eating, it was that no one noticed I hadn't. I tried to catch Thea's eye. She didn't flinch. Sometimes, I thought to myself, absence isn't about being gone. It's about being unseen. And then Blaze, like he'd timed it, raised his voice just a bit. The table quieted. "You know," he said, "some folks can wear the right dress, but they still smell like where they came from." Laughter didn't follow, not immediately, just a stillness. My mother adjusted her necklace. Thea sipped from her wine. One of my uncles cleared his throat and leaned in to whisper something to his wife, but no one said anything out loud. He didn't say my name, but everyone knew. I didn't flinch. I blinked, smiled. The kind of smile you make when your insides are hollow and your body is pretending everything is fine. That smile said, "I heard you." It also said, "This time, I won't let it pass." No one defended me. No one looked embarrassed on my behalf, not even Thea. My mother finally leaned in and whispered, "He didn't mean it like that. Don't cause tension." I turned slightly toward her. "If he didn't mean it, why did you look away?" She didn't answer. Silas tapped his glass and changed the subject, something about the housing market. "I heard Thea start a story about Paris. Someone brought up tech stocks. And just like that, the moment passed. For them. You can't call it love, I thought, if it only works when you're silent." A server dropped a napkin near me. Reflex took over. I bent down, picked it up, handed it back. When I sat up, Blaze lifted his glass again and looked around. My mother nudged me gently. "Be a dear and refill Blaze's," she said, as if I were still 16 and this was a church potluck. I reached for the bottle. My hand didn't tremble. I walked it to Blaze's side, poured slowly, letting the wine rise just under the rim. I looked him in the eye. He smirked like he was winning. "Don't worry," I said calmly. "I've always been good at serving what others think they deserve." He laughed like I'd told a joke. I turned and walked away before his sound reached me. Back at my seat, the chatter returned. Forks moved. Someone snapped a picture. Thea was adjusting the same dress I helped her choose years ago, back when we still had conversations that didn't end in tension. I looked down. My hands had already started folding the napkin again, without thought, without permission. "I used to do this to disappear," I murmured internally. "Now I do it to stay steady." A crisp fold. Another. Then the final crease to form a leaf, neat and small, sitting quietly on my lap like a secret I wasn't ready to share. This wasn't about surrender anymore. It was a marker, a line, something to come back to. As the dessert was served, berry tart and hand pies, another thought cut through the noise. What if I stopped pretending I needed their permission to be valuable? I looked at Blaze again. He was going on about sweat equity, explaining it to people who'd never built anything real. He didn't know. He had no idea. Some of that equity was mine. He just hadn't seen it yet. Let him talk. Let him gloat. Tomorrow, he'd learn. I stepped out into the courtyard under the pretense of taking a call. My phone was in my hand, dark screen, no one on the other end. I just needed air. Inside, the room was full of chatter, glasses, people who knew how to fill a space. Out here, it was just me and the flicker of patio lights catching the outline of Spanish moss. The coolness on my arms wasn't cold enough to sting, but sharp enough to wake me. I stood still, listening to laughter bounce off the glass windows behind me. It didn't sound like my family anymore. Maybe it never did. If silence is survival, I've mastered it, but survival isn't living. For a few minutes, I thought about leaving town that very night. heading back to Atlanta, pretending this dinner never happened. But I stayed, not out of forgiveness. I stayed because something unfinished needed to be done. Thea found me leaning against the brick wall, staring at a potted fern like it had answers. She walked like she owned the night. That same walk she used when she won Homecoming Queen, or when she took credit for the group project I carried in college. She smiled, tight and uncomfortable. "He didn't mean it, you know how he is." I didn't answer. I watched her posture more than her words. She wasn't here for truth, she was here for damage control. She folded her arms. "Don't make this a thing. Mom's already worried you'll take things the wrong way." The wrong way. The language of those who never have to apologize. "You always had the better PR," I said. That stung her, I could tell. But she didn't say anything. The only thing worse than being attacked is being told you imagined it. I walked back inside just long enough to collect my things. The dining hall had quieted, dessert served, some plates already cleared. My seat was untouched like me. The napkin was still there, half folded, stiff from the starch. I picked it up, muscle memory kicked in. 4 folds, sharp creases. The same shape I used to make when I needed something to hold on to at age 14. It used to calm me down when my name was left off school awards or when Mom told people I was still figuring things out. Back then, I folded to disappear. Now, I folded to seal. I placed the napkin, perfect leaf shape, on top of the dessert I never touched. They'd say I left early. They wouldn't say why, but they'd feel it. On my way out, just as I reached the entryway, my mother stepped forward like a final gate. "He's your sister's future," she whispered. "Don't hold on to petty things." I stood still, not because of what she said, but because of how familiar it sounded. College graduation, no call, my startup's first funding round. That's nice, dear. Every major milestone. Swallowed. Funny how the little things only matter when they ruin your photos. I didn't wait for her reply. I walked out. I didn't rush to the car. I took each step slow, like I wanted the concrete to remember the weight I carried out of that house. When I reached the car, I got in and sat. No music, no tears, just silence. Focused and clean. I unlocked my phone, opened a secure app, typed 3 words. Initiate review. Blaze Holdings. Then I hit send. That click, small, light, felt heavier than any door I'd closed before. I didn't leave to escape them. I left to begin without them. Before driving off, I reached into my purse and pulled out the napkin I had folded earlier. I opened it, refolded it into a triangle this time, sharp, pointed. Tonight, I stopped being part of the fabric. Tonight, I cut through it. I placed it on the dashboard like a flag no one else could see but me. And I drove. I woke up to the sound of my phone vibrating across the nightstand. The screen lit up with group texts, mostly from family. Photos from last night. Laughing faces, centerpieces, toasts frozen in pixels. I scrolled through them with the kind of detachment that comes from knowing exactly what you'll see. But then one picture stopped me. Thea stood in the center of the frame, holding the shadow box I had spent weeks designing. The caption read, "So thoughtful of Blaze to prepare this surprise for Thea." Smiling emojis, applause emojis, nothing under it mentioned me. My heart didn't drop. It settled into that low, familiar ache you get when someone takes your words and signs their name to them. The box was mine. Every detail, every piece. The broken watch, the childhood map, the scrunchie from '98. I had gone to a specialty shop to have the gold-trimmed frame done. Quiet, personal work. Nothing flashy, just history. Ours. And now it was his. I kept scrolling. Comment after comment. "Blaze is such a romantic. Wow, didn't know he had that side." Thea found a good one. It wasn't the first time someone took the credit, but it might be the last time I let them keep it. I leaned back on the couch, replaying how carefully I'd chosen each piece. Thea had once cried for 2 days when she lost that watch. I was the one who found it, tucked under the back porch steps. I'd kept it all these years, waiting for a moment that felt right to return it. Thought this engagement was it. and I didn't even sign my name. Back then, I thought love should be quiet. Turns out, quiet love disappears fast in loud rooms. I texted Mom simply, "Did you see the gift?" She responded within seconds. "Yes, Blaze was so thoughtful. You should learn from that." No pause. No double-checking the facts. No instinct to ask, was it really from him? That was the moment. Not when Blaze stole the credit. Not even when the photo went viral in the family thread. And it was when my mother validated the lie. No hesitation. No doubt. I nearly replied. Nearly told her the whole truth. But I deleted the message before I finished typing. If you have to beg to be seen, you're better off invisible by choice. The next text wasn't from family. It was from a name I hadn't seen in 4 years. Trish. She'd been my roommate in college before life and cities pulled us apart. The message read, "Can we talk? I saw the photo. I have something you need to hear." We met at a coffee shop downtown, neutral ground. She walked in wearing the same anxious energy I used to carry before meetings. "You don't know me anymore," I said, as we hugged lightly. She nodded. "You're right, but I do know Blaze. I worked for him 5 years ago. Small tech startup. He needed someone to run operations." She ordered a tea. I didn't touch my coffee. "He's good," she continued. "Really good. At taking other people's ideas and pretending they were his. He did it to his co-founder, quiet guy, brilliant. But no one remembers his name now. Blaze replaced him, buried the story, rebranded the launch. No lawsuit, just silence." I said nothing. "I thought you should know. You're not the first. But maybe you'll be the last." She placed her hand on mine, just briefly, then left. I sat alone, watching the swirl of cream in my untouched cup. This wasn't personal. It was a pattern. The fake praise, the twisted narrative, the way he always positioned himself as the one bringing value, while I stood just out of frame, holding the real structure together. Blaze's power wasn't just charm, it was curated narrative. And I wasn't angry anymore. I was clear. You don't dismantle men like Blaze with rage. You take apart the myth, brick by lying brick. Back at home, I opened my laptop, navigated to a folder I hadn't touched in years, one I'd labeled Foundations. Inside, ownership docs, early contracts, incorporation forms. One file stood out, an agreement with my initials at the bottom and Blaze's signature in sloppy blue ink. I'd helped him file it, helped him launch what became his company. Back then, I wasn't worried about titles. I just wanted him to win. I clicked download, then saved it to a new folder. I didn't tell anyone. Didn't need to. They stole a gift. I'll reclaim an empire. I must have fallen asleep on the couch. The room was dim. The same untouched coffee still on the table, cold by now. No texts, no missed calls. I wasn't surprised. I was just tired. Silence like this can feel restful, but it isn't. It's the kind of quiet that follows a hit, right after the pain, before the swelling. Still, I grabbed my phone, half expecting someone, anyone, to have said something. An apology. A check-in. Even a fake, forced, "How are you?" would have done. But there was nothing. And that's when I realized. They were waiting on me to forget. To shrink. To slip right back into the role I'd always played. A new notification popped up. An email from the old family photo folder Thea and I used to share. For a second, I smiled. Maybe she was reaching out in her own way. Maybe she remembered. Inside, one attachment, labeled Vocal Sample Thea.wave. I tapped it, expecting a clip of her practicing a speech, maybe for the wedding. Instead, her voice came in mid-sentence, clipped, clear. "Marcel needs attention like oxygen. If we let her near the business side, she'll ruin it. Let her stay in her little world. She's safe there." I sat straight up. I replayed it. Then again, my hands didn't move. My breath didn't shift. Just her voice, over and over, so calm, so practiced. She always was the golden child, but I didn't know she wanted me buried in the dirt beneath her pedestal. The audio cut out mid-laugh, probably Blaze's. Of course he'd laugh. It wasn't just a moment of frustration. It was how they talked about me when no one was supposed to hear. But now I had heard, and I couldn't unhear it. I didn't cry. Not then. I just sat still. Because some truths come in quietly, and they stay loud forever. And just like that, a memory surfaced, a buried one. I was 11, maybe 12, hiding under Grandma's table while the adults played cards and talked too loud. Thea was across the room, bragging to our cousin Sarah. "She's smart," Thea had said, "but not useful, like you always have to babysit her. She means well, though." I remember not moving, afraid they'd see I was there. They didn't. "They say your first betrayal is the hardest," I whispered to myself. "That's a lie. It's the first one you keep replaying for years that destroys you." By late afternoon, I was still on the couch, still holding the phone. I called my parents. Lenora picked up on the second ring. "I heard what Thea thinks of me," I said, calmly. Too calmly. A pause. Then, "She didn't mean it like that. Why would you dig for things to be upset about?" My fingers tightened around the phone. Silas's voice piped in from speaker. "You've always been so sensitive, honey. Just let her have her moment. Don't make this about you." It wasn't shock. Not this time. It was familiarity. Deep, old, and tired. "So I'm the disruption," I said slowly, "not the one being dismissed." Silence. I didn't wait for more. I hung up. Afterward, I paced my apartment, picked up my phone, typed out texts, deleted them, opened emails, closed them. Considered sending the audio to the whole family, but didn't. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe I'd misunderstood. Maybe they were right. And then I laughed. Quiet, bitter. When they hurt you just enough that you start questioning your own clarity, they don't have to silence you. You'll do it yourself. I opened my journal, wrote one line. "Thea can have her moment. I'll take the future." Then I shut it. Later that night, I sat on the floor, not out of despair, just needing a level surface. I opened my secure drive, played Trisha's warning again, let her words settle next to Thea's. Then I opened the file Blaze had once emailed me years ago, when he needed help incorporating. My name was in the metadata. Clear as day. I smiled, not out of joy, just recognition. "You erased me too soon," I whispered. And then, with steady fingers, I opened a new message to my lawyer. Subject: Asset Review. The screen was the only light in the room. I sat up in bed, not tired, not restless, just calculating. My laptop rested on my thighs, folders open like old wounds. Contracts, email chains, memos no one thought I'd save. They were wrong. The napkin I'd folded into a triangle was still on my nightstand. I didn't touch it. It didn't need touching. It already said what I needed it to. People journal their pain. I prefer a well-formatted PDF. The cursor blinked in the message window of my secure platform. I typed, "Initiate contact termination protocol. Blaze Holdings. Backdate inquiry. Prepare press bullet." I hit send. No smile. No sigh. Just silence. Precision. Years ago, Blaze came to me with a favor. "It's just paperwork," he said. "You're the cleanest operator I know." That's how it started, back when I still believed loyalty wasn't a liability. He needed a structure, something that wouldn't draw attention but would attract capital. I offered him one of my dormant offshore shells. Simple, quiet, elegant. Now, that same shell was the rope he hadn't realized he wrapped around his own throat. I clicked into a folder named AG Blaze JV dotted. Everything was there. Draft contracts, his name misspelled twice, tracked changes in red, email threads with timestamps, wire confirmations, a scanned copy of a signed agreement with a notary's seal, and my initials in the corner. "They call women emotional," I whispered. "I call this documentation." At 6:15 a.m., Darren called. "I saw the timestamp," he said. "You're serious?" "Yes. This will go public. It won't be pretty. I'm counting on that, but not yet." "What do you want me to do?" "Schedule a meeting with his board. Use the shell entity. Keep me off the invite. You realize, this could ruin him. No, I said. He did that himself. I'm just forwarding the invoice. I hung up and got dressed. The city was just waking up when I stepped out for a walk. I left my phone on the counter. I didn't need to hear it ring. Not yet. Cool air brushed my skin, and I let it. For the first time in days, I walked without needing to prove I was going somewhere. I passed a bakery I used to visit after meetings, back when I wore pantyhose and approval like armor. Inside, a girl was getting chewed out by her manager for changing the window display without asking. I watched her face flush. She didn't cry. She just nodded. We're trained early. Ask first. Don't speak out of turn. Stay useful. Stay small. I stopped asking at 29. Back home, I poured a glass of water and checked my inbox. 18 emails. I didn't open any of them. Not yet. At noon, I replied to one. The recipient was a senior partner, someone who once told me the structuring work I'd done for Blaze was technically elegant but commercially unnecessary. Subject line: clarification. Body: please find attached the original structuring documents you once called unnecessary. I believe they've become relevant. No threats, no narrative, just data. I closed with, just because I was quiet doesn't mean I was absent. That line sat there for a moment, centered on the screen. Then I hit send. The loudest thing I ever said was in 12-point Calibri font. I woke up to my phone vibrating so loud it knocked itself off the nightstand. 37 missed calls. 129 messages. I hadn't even gotten to the notifications when I saw my name trending, on platforms I didn't even have accounts for. Someone had recorded Blaze's little moment at the engagement dinner. The one where he spat that I smelled like where I came from, while pretending it was a joke. Someone clipped it, captioned it, and it took off like gasoline meeting fire. The video didn't just show his words, it showed my face. Still, calm, unreadable. And that's what people noticed. They didn't see a victim. They saw someone who didn't flinch. I hadn't posted it, but it posted me. They tried to erase me privately. The world just printed the receipt. The comment sections told their own story. This is what professional gaslighting looks like. She sat there and folded her pain into a napkin. That's strength. He didn't even have the decency to say it behind her back. I didn't reply to anything. I didn't have to. They were already saying what needed to be said. An influencer shared the clip and wrote, "Power doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just sits there and folds a napkin." I stared at the screen, still in bed, covers halfway kicked off. Let them say what they will. I've already written my part. By noon, Thea called. I didn't answer. Then the voicemail came. I had no idea it would come off like that. You know Blaze, he's blunt. It was a joke. Another message came 2 minutes later. Please don't make this worse. It's already everywhere. Still didn't respond. Then my mother, ever consistent in her timing, texted, "You're blowing this up. You always overreact." I screenshotted it, saved it in a folder I'd renamed Legacy. I wasn't making it worse. I was making it visible. A few hours later, the press started circling. Requests for statements. A local anchor asked for a live interview. I declined. Instead, I reached out to a nonprofit media platform I trusted, one that didn't cut women off mid-sentence. We scheduled a roundtable interview. Not a headline, not a gotcha moment. Just space. My lawyer helped draft my opening. I rewrote it entirely the night before. I didn't want sympathy. I wanted structure. Sympathy fades. But frameworks, those last. I wore gray. Not black. Not red. Just gray. I didn't fidget. I didn't smile unless I meant it. The moderator gave me the floor. Sometimes, I began, the most dangerous men are the ones who smile when they dismiss you. No names. Just patterns. When you build your image on someone else's silence, you'd better pray they never find their voice. I let that land. Then came the part I hadn't rehearsed, but it came out anyway. They called me street garbage. I just want to say, garbage builds foundations. And I've been laying brick for years. There was silence. Then applause. Not polite. Not polite at all. It was real. From women who had sat through dinners like mine, men who had watched their sisters disappear inside family photo captions. I went home afterward, quietly. Outside my door, someone had left flowers. A note. No name. Inside were 6 words. We saw you. We see you. There were other messages, plenty of trolls. One account claimed Blaze was preparing a legal response. Defamation, they said. I leaned back on my couch, eyes closed. I didn't build this moment. They did. I just let it breathe. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I picked it up. I walked into my office that morning like I had every other, except now there were eyes on me I couldn't see. Coffee in one hand, the other checking messages. I barely noticed my assistant step closer, until she whispered, "You need to look at this." She handed over her tablet, screen already loaded. Blaze Holdings. Their stock was falling faster than headlines could keep up. One headline read, "Silent Partner Speaks, Turns Out She Was the Architect." Another, "Behind Blaze's Fortune, Her Name Was Left Off the Paperwork." I stared at the numbers, watched the real-time collapse of a company built on polished speeches and my silence. And I didn't smile. I didn't need to. Power doesn't shift with volume, it shifts with access. An alert buzzed, a text from Thea. "You went too far." I didn't reply, because I hadn't. I'd only gone far enough. Later that morning, my door slammed open. Blaze didn't knock, didn't pause. Just barged in, chest puffed, face blotchy, hands shaking with more ego than fear. "You think this is going to stand?" he shouted, pacing my floor like it belonged to him. "You just burned down your own sister's life." I looked up slowly. "No," I said, voice low. "She built her life pretending mine didn't exist. You just helped her decorate it." He reached for a folder on the corner of my desk, probably thinking it held more than it did. I slid the real one toward him, inside, the contract, his signature, dated, sealed, my initials. The foundation he forgot existed. "I could sue," he hissed. I nodded. "You could, but then your board would have to testify, under oath." He paused. His mouth opened. Nothing came out. Security arrived, unprompted. My assistant had been watching. He didn't leave quietly. He made sure the hall heard him, called me a nobody who got lucky, said this was personal, not business. I didn't argue, because it was both. By early afternoon, the knock on my door was Thea's. No cameras this time, no makeup, just her and whatever was left of her dignity. "I didn't know," she said, tears already forming. "No," I corrected. "You didn't care to know." She sat, shoulders folded inward. "You always had the attention. You just didn't know how to use it." I waited. Let her say it all. "Mom always said I had to protect you, by keeping you out of things. Control. It had always been control. I didn't ruin your life," I said quietly. "I exposed that it was built on erasing mine." She didn't deny it. That night, I got a text from Dad. Family wanted a meeting. Neutral ground. I agreed. They picked a friend's house, neutral only in geography, not in history. Lenora went first. "This didn't need to go public." Silas followed. "We've worked too hard for our name." I listened, and then I spoke. I played the audio. Thea's voice dismissing me, then Blaze's voice. "Let her fold napkins. It's what she does best." Silence. "I didn't expose anything," I said. "You left it in plain sight. I just filed it." I stood up. As I walked out, a younger cousin intercepted me. "You've caused so much division," she said, like I was a storm instead of the thunder after silence. I turned and answered, not loudly, but clearly. "Family isn't the ones who smile in public. It's the ones who sit beside you when the world spits on you." A journalist overheard. They published the quote. Some clapped. Some called me bitter. Let them fight over the meaning. I'd already lived it. Back at my car, I found a note tucked beneath the windshield. No name, just handwriting that looked rushed. "Thank you for not folding." For once, someone didn't. I folded it, careful like a napkin, tucked it into my coat. No smile, just breath, calm, and earned. A week had passed since the clip, the press conference, the collapse. I found myself walking the same park I used to ride my bike through as a kid. The gravel path hadn't changed. The air still carried that mix of magnolia and river water, but something in me had. People glanced, some waved, a few just nodded. Not in the curious, gossipy way you'd expect when your name's been on everyone's feed, but like they recognized something familiar. Or maybe they'd just been waiting for someone else to say it first. I didn't say much now. I'd said everything I needed to. Fame was never the goal, but visibility, it was overdue. Blaze resigned. Thea stayed quiet. My parents, well, quiet was their language of choice. I didn't release another statement, didn't chase another headline. Silence, when chosen, says more than screams ever could. And what I said, I knew it would echo longer than their version ever did. I sat on a bench tucked under an old oak, same one I used to hide behind during family picnics. I was sipping coffee when I heard footsteps approach. Reuben didn't say a word at first. He just eased himself down beside me, slow and deliberate like always. In his hand was a small white napkin, folded neat as origami. He handed it to me. I stared at it. "It's how you used to fold them," he said. "Thought you should have one folded for you, for once." I didn't speak. I didn't trust my voice to come out even. "I never said much," he continued. "But I saw it all. You didn't need fixing. They needed waking up." He told me about the bird feeders I used to build out of broken wood, scraps of wire, leftover paint. Said I made them useful. Said that wasn't garbage. It was gold. I teared up. Just a bit. Not loud. Not heavy. Just enough to feel. Later that night, I sat at my kitchen table and wrote a letter. To my mother. I didn't plan to send it. That wasn't the point. I wrote about the birthdays she missed, the messages she never returned, the silence she expected me to swallow like grace. I wrote not to blame, but to release. "You don't need to read this," I ended. "I just needed to write it without shaking." I folded the paper slowly, the same way I folded napkins back when I had nothing else to hold. I tucked it inside my journal, closed the cover, and left it there. Sometimes closure isn't someone hearing you. Sometimes it's you, hearing yourself. The next morning, I updated my business profile. For the first time, I used my full name, removed blazes, everywhere. Updated legal records, adjusted filings. My assistant looked at me as I signed the last document and asked, "You ready to tell your full story?" I smiled. "I already did. This is just the paperwork." Later that week, I submitted an application for a grant, one that would fund underrepresented women launching their own ventures. The money came from the buyout Blaze never saw coming. This wasn't revenge. This was redistribution. That weekend, an old friend hosted a dinner. Just a handful of us. No family, no stage, no legacy pressure. We sat at a small round table, mismatched chairs, wine passed like water. A young woman next to me fidgeted with her bracelet, barely spoke. I took the napkin from beside my plate, folded it slowly, and handed it to her. "This is yours," I said. "You don't have to earn your seat." She nodded, eyes glossy, said nothing. She didn't need to. And for the first time, I understood what it meant to give what you never got. That night, I came home and opened the drawer where I'd kept one napkin since the start of all this. The very first one I'd folded that night at the engagement dinner. I unfolded it, refolded it, but not as armor this time, as memory, as marker. I didn't burn bridges, I just stopped carrying them on my back. I placed it in a small glass case beside my desk. Then I turned off the light, walked to my bedroom, and for the first time in years, I slept without armor.